Hey, good morning, everybody. Another day, another edition of Tropics Talk here, the ABC 7 Weather Center. Of course, yesterday, storm number 2 forming in the Atlantic. Let's get right to it. That's Tropical Storm Bill. Now, it's racing to the north and east, as we'll talk about in just a moment here. Well, quickly outracing where I have the graphic there on the map, but also moving away from the warmer waters it's used as fuel over the past 24 hours. Other than that, 2 areas we'll continue to keep an eye on. One, a tropical wave that's now off to the west of the African coast, and then the broad low pressure area we've been talking about for a week plus in the Bay of Campeche. Let's begin with Tropical Storm Bill. This is the 5 a.m. stats, a 50 mile per hour tropical storm. Looking fairly healthy on the satellite presentation, although we're starting to see those yellows fade a little bit. We're starting to watch the convection, those tall cloud tops, collapse a little bit, as again, it's moving towards some cooler waters now, and moving. It is at a fast clip for a tropical system, northeast at 31 miles per hour. This thing's downright racing. Again, look where it is. So you can clearly make out on the sea surface temperature map where the Gulf Stream is, that deeper orange shade off the coast of the Carolinas that then cuts into the middle of your screen here, where the water temperatures are still in the upper 70s, the low 80s, warm enough to support a healthy tropical storm. But as it continues to track to the north and northeast, you see how quickly those water temperatures fall. By the time it's about the latitude of Cape Cod, numbers starting to fall into the lower 70s. By the time it gets towards the Canadian Maritimes, those water temperatures, thanks to the Labrador Current, dropping down into the 50s. So this doesn't have much real estate left. So I suspect this time tomorrow we're no longer talking about Tropical Storm Bill. The Hurricane Center holds on to its current strength through the afternoon. And by the time we get to early tomorrow morning, it's off to the east of Nova Scotia. Winds are down to 45 miles per hour. Would be surprised if it's still a purely tropical storm as it's moving over Newfoundland by tomorrow afternoon. Likely to bring some wind and rain there, although most of Newfoundland will be on the western side of the storm. Most of the rain should be to the east at that point with some westerly winds hitting it as it starts to move towards the Gulf Stream. From there, heads to the North Atlantic. It'll be gone by the time we get to Wednesday evening. So another name off the board, but otherwise no big impacts from Tropical Storm Bill. We jump back to the coast of Africa. If you were watching Tropics Talk yesterday, this was looking like a healthy tropical wave out there in the Atlantic. No longer. You can see a little bit of remnant swirl in the clouds well to the south of the Cabo Verde Islands right now, but there's no deep convection with it as there was early yesterday morning when that moved off the coast, when the Hurricane Center pegged it for potential development. They've dropped that chance to 10% over the next couple of days. There's very little signature in the models to suggest this is something that's going to come together. There's too much dry air in the way. There's too much wind shear in the way. Again, I'll still be keeping one eye on it, but chances are nothing comes of this as it works its way westward. And really, there's about a 24 to 48-hour period where this could become something before it really goes downhill conditions-wise for this to even hold together. So by mid to late week, this is nothing more than a little turning of the winds, a little wave that's working its way from east to west. That's what we expect to see. Early on in the season, it's just too hostile out there in the eastern Atlantic for those Cabo Verde storms to really get going. We wait until late July, August, and especially September for those storms to become more of a threat. Back here in the Gulf of Mexico, again, we've been watching this for a week plus now. Some heavy thunderstorm activity going in the Bay of Campeche itself, but there's just no organization to that whatsoever at this point in time. Perhaps a little bit of a lower level swirl. You can make that out in the cloud coverage underneath that thunderstorm cap, but yeah, not much to see at this point in time. Still, the Hurricane Center saying high chance, at least a tropical depression, forms out of this as it gradually begins to lift its way northward later on this week. Now, as I've been telling you all along, this is not a threat to southwest Florida. Any rain from this is going to stay well off to our north and west. And really, the model trends in the past 24 hours have been favoring a much weaker, much sloppier system. Big part of the reason why there's a lot of wind shear out there in the Gulf of Mexico right now, that's keeping a lid on it at this point in time. See, there's a little bit of a pocket to the north of where that bright red is in the central Gulf of Mexico. The wind shear does drop down a little bit. So I wouldn't be surprised if this does try to get its act together as it moves into the more central Gulf. And that's what models do, key in on it, trying to come together. But another hurdle, there's all kinds of dry air over Texas, over the southern U.S. right now, even nosing into the South Gulf of Mexico. That's going to help to keep a lid on things. So you look at the intensity plots only one model now, the ship model, showing this becoming a tropical storm. Everything else keeping it under that tropical storm threshold. And when you look at the operational models, first we'll begin with the GFS. Take a look at what this is doing. So go forward in time. It does have a broad circulation. It does have broad low pressure by the time we get to Friday morning, but it's really not coalescing this into a well-defined tropical cyclone. Still, there's your heavy rain headed towards the northern Gulf Coast, soaks the New Orleans area, parts of Mississippi, Alabama. Of note, Texas looking to stay on the dry side of this. In fact, very little rain on most models you look at from the system, but to the east of the center, again, some soaking rain and the threat for flooding, even if this doesn't come together, which, per that latest run of the GFS, I don't see even a depression on that model run. Again, the rain continues as that lifts its way northward. And then here's the European forecast model, very similar solution. So the models are pretty decently in line. There's Friday morning. Yes, we do have our little swirl. We do have a closed off low at this point in time, but nothing intense. There we are by Saturday morning, a little closed low moving onshore, maybe a depression. Whole lot of rain on this model. Again, New Orleans getting soaked in that presentation, and it continues to pour down rain going into Sunday afternoon too. And that's going to continue to be the big takeaway from this. Yes, likely something weak, something sloppy headed towards the northern Gulf Coast. Maybe this takes the name Claudette. Regardless, the impact is going to be the heavy rain on the eastern side of the center. This is the European forecast model, the one I just showed you, piling up that rain. It's showing over 7 inches of rain for New Orleans, Mobile Bay picking up 6+ inches of rain here too. So there's likely to be some flooding from this as it moves its way onshore. Of note too, in the longer range, you look at the models, this is the European. It's showing the probability of a tropical depression. It's picking up on maybe once this moves off the east coast, sort of like Bill just did, once this gets to the Gulf Stream. If it does, if there's something left of it, maybe it can spin up there. So there'll be a second shot for development, but also of note, I don't see anything else really going out there in the tropics towards the end of next week, perhaps even through the end of June. So yes, we got a little flare up in activity, but overall June is expected to be a pretty quiet month in the Atlantic. And after Bill, after whatever we're dealing with in the Gulf of Mexico, I think we get a little bit of a break for the last week or 2 weeks of the month of June. So takeaways here today, Bill is peaking now, and it's going to be falling apart as we head through the next 24 hours, moving away from the United States, perhaps some rain for Newfoundland, but that's about it. We'll keep watching that low in the Gulf of Mexico. I have heavy rain in Texas and Louisiana. You can actually switch that, I think, to Louisiana, Mississippi, and Alabama. The threat for flooding is still high, even as the chances, I think, that this is going to become any type of well-defined tropical storm or low-end hurricane, I think the chances of that continue to fall in a big way. And again, none of these any type of threat for Southwest Florida at this point in time, nor do there appear to be any threats in the longer range as well. That's it for Tropics Talk here for today. Of course, I'll have a full update coming up, more in the morning at 9 on the Tropics, and JP will have more as well on ABC 7 News at 6, 7, and 11 tonight. So we'll see you then.